Good morning, everyone. This is a moment of hope with Upward Transitions. We are so excited that you have joined us this morning for another conversation about hope, about poverty, about homelessness, about community connection here in Oklahoma and Oklahoma County. This morning, we are joined by Laura McDonald with the YWCA of Oklahoma City. Laura, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We are so glad that you have joined us, and we are so excited to hear about the YWCA.
Well, I am happy to be here and happy to hopefully reach people in our community that maybe don't know about our services and don't know about our partnership that we have had for a really long time with you guys.
Yeah, Upward Transitions and YWCA have been longtime partners and United Way partners. And so, we're part of the family. And so I'm just really excited to share not only about your unique mission, but also our collaboration. So one of the things I want you to share is about YWCA. I think people, particularly as they engage YWCA, don't really understand that each YWCA gets to choose its own unique focus and mission. So tell us just a little bit about this particular YWCA here in Oklahoma City and how it does its mission and purpose.
Absolutely. So the YWCA, as you probably know, is a nationwide organization. And just like you mentioned, every state or, every YWCA has the opportunity to focus in on their particular mission for their community, what they feel like will best serve their community. Our mission statement, our national mission statement, is the elimination of racism and the empowerment of women. So, that's a very broad umbrella. There's a lot of things that can fall under that. For example, I know that there are YWCAs that focus a lot on literacy and job placement and things like that. In Oklahoma City, our particular YWCA has decided to focus on the issue of domestic violence within our community. And so the YWCA has the only emergency domestic violence shelter in Oklahoma County. And we provide both shelter-based and community-based services for people experiencing relationship violence, sexual assault, and stalking. So that's the relationship violence is kind of a big umbrella, but we also do serve victims of sexual assault and stalking.
Yeah, and that is such an incredible resource to our community, and I think it's important that people realize your unique gift of both education and service to our community, and that unique focus. And when they encounter, the YWCA here in Oklahoma City and your unique mission and purpose, I think they need to realize what an extraordinary focus you have. And when we do our partnership with you, particularly when we work with those experiencing homelessness, those two mission and purposes often overline. When somebody encounters domestic violence or stalking, it often leads to being at risk for homelessness often. So tell us about how you deal with that when somebody encounters that.
Absolutely. It is very common because in most situations, or not the majority of the situations, the victim of the abuse is the one that's forced to leave the home. The abuser doesn't have any motivation to change things. Everything, status quo is working out for them. And so frequently we have the victims that are having to flee. And when you consider the power and control wheel and how financial abuse is very often woven into any physical or verbal abuse. You're looking at victims that have been cut off from family resources, that maybe don't have a vehicle, that maybe haven't been allowed to work, don't have bank accounts or access to the bank accounts. And so really when they flee and when they come to us, a lot of times they're essentially starting over from scratch with nothing. And so that's when it becomes really vital to partner with agencies in our community like Upward Transitions and others to help pull some stability and some resources around them, because really what victims are often facing is insurmountable on their own.
Mm-hmm. Well, and yes, where we come in with helping with the emergency rehousing, And where after you've done your crisis interventions and you've wrapped around them in that crisis moment, we are fortunate enough to have our case managers know the ins and outs of the housing system and really help them navigate a system that they probably haven't had to navigate, to avoid the crisis of housing insecurity on top of the other crisis that they're experiencing.
Absolutely. And it's really overwhelming because the housing system is not necessarily easy to navigate. Even if I wasn't in crisis, there's a lot there to try to manage. And so you add the trauma of domestic violence, the insecurity of where you're going to go, where you're going to live. Maybe you have kids too on top of that. And it really is overwhelming. And so having those professionals that can come around and say, hey, we've got you. We know where to plug you in. Let's start with these steps and work from there, is really impactful for people.
So tell us more about your unique work there at the YWCA. I know that you have a specific focus.
Yeah, so in my position, I'm the director of the Domestic Violence Victims Assistance Program, which is a really long title to say that I oversee our court advocacy program. And I'm also the advocate that's embedded with the Domestic Violence Detectives Unit here in Oklahoma City. So kind of dual roles, but the majority of what I do is help victims navigate the court systems. Primarily, we focus in on the VPO court system, although occasionally we will help with family court or criminal court matters as well. And it's the same kind of thing as housing. This is a system that is usually very unknown to victims. It is extremely overwhelming. A lot of people haven't even been down to the courthouse. So just little things like, where do I file this paperwork? And where do I park? And will my abuser be there? And
right.
What time should I go? And where do I wait? All of those things can just add to the plate of people that are already carrying enough. And so my main goal is to have advocates available in court to provide emotional support at the time of the hearing. They can stand with the victims at the bench while they're talking to the judge and be kind of an extra buffer or support person there, if abuser is there. It's a very nerve-wracking thing to go and have so much on the line and be trusting that this judge is going to believe you and take you seriously and give you the protection that you need. And so having that advocate there is very helpful, especially right now where support persons are not being allowed into the courtroom because of
COVID. I didn't even think about that part of it. Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So they can come, they can hang out in the hallway, but they can't be in the actual courtroom. So having the advocates there as an additional resource has been really helpful for some people. Also, they're there to provide information about community resources. We have packets that we hand out that talk about there's a resource list and where to go to find these things. And there's information about the YWCA and some of our partnering agencies so that people know, if they haven't already connected in, that there are resources out there and people that will, come around and help them. Mm-hmm. I also spend quite a lot of time on the phone with people prior to their court hearing, just helping prepare them for what to expect. What's the normal order of a hearing? When do they give their evidence? What evidence is important to bring with them? Those kinds of things, just kind of helping somebody that's maybe never done this and is very overwhelmed by it feel a little bit more empowered as they walk into the experience.
So I'm just really curious. Yeah, you mentioned the support people not being able to go into the courthouse. What other changes have you seen because of COVID and things? How has that impacted your work?
Specifically at the courthouse, it's changed quite frequently since March, actually. We just kind of have to roll with it because there was a period of time that court was shut down. There was a period of time where it was really just the people that were there. The advocates weren't let in for a short period of time too. And so we've just kind of had to, like everybody, just kind of navigate the changing, policies of these different agencies as everyone's trying to keep people safe. Specifically right now, the only major thing that's different is the support persons not being able to be in the courtroom. And also they've started staggering the docket so that nobody, they used to just have like a 9 o'clock docket or a 1:30 docket, and there would be 30 people there with their opposing party and their counsel and their support people, and there's a lot of people just kind of hanging out in the courtroom. So now they're starting to stagger that to limit the size of the crowds. So other than that, it's pretty much remained business as usual in the courthouse. But agency-wide, there's had to be, lots of changes. We'd have to shift some of our support services to virtual platforms, our groups, some of our intakes, that kind of thing. That's been a little bit back and forth as the COVID situation has sort of changed. We've
ebbed and flowed. We've experienced that as well.
Yeah. With this recent spike, we've unfortunately had to suspend our in-person group services again, and we're working out how to do that safely and virtually. But it's a lot to try to consider. On the one hand, we don't want those supports to not be available to people because they're life-saving. And we know that, especially in this very stressful time, we have COVID going on. There's a lot of political upheaval right now. We have a lot of people who have lost their jobs or aren't able to work. There's a lot of extra stress that is not helping, people who are potentially having to shelter at home or be at home with an abusive person. And so we want these services to be available to people. We're very cognizant of what a dangerous time this is for people, but we also are trying to navigate how to do that safely. So we're in the same boat with everyone.
Well, and that's the next thing I was going to ask is, I've read articles about how people are concerned about child abuse being underreported and possibly on the uptick during COVID. And I can only assume that domestic violence is the same. Yes. Because everybody's, at home together, kind of in these situations where, what normally would have been seen is not being seen. And so how can we either address or be more cognizant or prepared for, those situations? How can we be a support to the people that are in these, dangerous quarantine situations?
Absolutely. So from an agency point of view, it's just really important that we think outside the box and get really creative on how we can reach people, whether that's through texting or online chat, or phone calls that can be ended quickly, doing safety planning around videos, that kind of thing. We're just having to really think outside the box and navigate with our clients, and really trusting our clients too is a big part of trusting them on what is safe for them. So it's safe for somebody to text maybe, but not to call or not to video chat, and having to, putting the burden on our end to adapt our processes to them. And then from an individual point of view, I just think that it's important that we're staying connected to each other. With domestic violence rates in Oklahoma, I think it's 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 right now. People experience domestic violence in their home. So statistically speaking, if you've got 100 friends on your social media, statistically, potentially 25 of them are experiencing domestic violence. And so just keeping an eye on your friends, checking in, paying attention, that kind of thing. We have seen, even though access to resources has been down because of COVID, we've seen an increase of calls to law enforcement that are domestic violence related. So we know that this is a big problem, and we know that it has, not that there's magically more abusers, but that the rates of domestic violence are increasing because of this. So
well, and like you said, the stress of the world can't be helping.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. So for those of us who are, wanting to be aware and wanting to be educated, where can we go for resources?
For domestic violence related resources, or just resources in general?
Yeah, just to learn more about your services and the education opportunities that are out there.
Absolutely. So you can visit the YWCA's website, or visit the website at Palomar Family Justice Center. We partner with Palomar, and actually I am embedded at Palomar Family Justice Center as a YWCA advocate. And they have wraparound services that they provide.
And that's YWCAOKC.org?
Yes. And then Palomar, I'm checking really quick. I think it's just palomarokc.org. Yes.
Okay.
But both of those websites will have information. The Y website will have information about the services that we provide, educational opportunities, employment opportunities that are available. Our shelter is still open, is still functioning. We are still providing sexual assault exams. We are still providing domestic violence nurse exams. So people can access that. Sometimes people don't realize that they can access that still. In all the ways that we can be, we are still providing services to the community.
Very good. Well, I think it's so important for people to know that this community resource is out there, and that, just like Upward Transitions, the doors didn't close during COVID. We just all adjusted. We just all modified and adjusted to do our services in a different way. And we continue to serve those that are out there needing these very important crisis interventions and supports during this very important time. Laura, I am so grateful that you took the time to share about the YWCA of Oklahoma City with us. Tell me about your geographic boundaries for your services so people out there know.
So YWCA is based in Oklahoma County, and we serve Oklahoma County primarily. However, we will go out of county sometimes if the need arises. We do love to partner, though, with other agencies in the community, like the Women's Resource Center and coming soon Cardinal Point in Canadian County. So I'm really excited to see all of these new agencies, not Women's Resource, but Cardinal Point popping up, and then continuing to do what we do with you and others to just kind of wrap around these victims and say, there's a whole community of people out there that want you to be safe and want to help. I want to give you, and I should have this number memorized, and so I apologize, but I want to also give out the 24-hour hotline number.
Fantastic.
For people to contact the Y. Give me just 1 second to get it. I will tell you that you can call during business hours, and that number is 405-948-1770.
Say it a little slower, and I'll put it in the chat. 405.
Sorry, 405-948-1770. And then I want to grab the 24-hour hotline number for you guys to have it in the chat. And this number is, like I said, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You call it 2 a.m. on Christmas morning, and somebody is there to answer that phone.
That's awesome.
And of course, my computer is being slow.
Oh, I gotta love technology.
Isn't that always the way? Here we go.
Yes.
I'm just going to have to memorize this number is the problem. Let's see. Okay, so the 24-hour hotline number is 1-800. Whoops. Sorry. I just let go of it.
You're fine.
I should have come more prepared. Okay, 800-522-7233.
7233.
Yay!
Fantastic. Yes.
And so you can call that number anytime, and there is somebody available to either connect you with resources, do safety planning, assess for shelter, schedule a DV&E, whatever you need is available at that number.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for finding that number. I think it's so important that we made that available to everyone. Yeah. Well, again, Laura, I am so glad you made the time to join us today, and I'm so glad we got this information out to our community and our resources. Everyone, this has been a moment of hope with Upward Transitions. You can join us again every Tuesday at 10:30, where we will continue having conversations about our community, about poverty, about homelessness, about community resources. Take a little time to find a little hope in the world, and have a great day.